And then something clicked. I felt so miserable at the job that I was that I thought I had nothing to lose. And I realized that if I wanted my life to look different, I had to start making different decisions. Welcome to Open Studio Podcast, space for lettering artists, illustrators, and creatives who are determined to thrive in their passion. I'm Martina Flora, and I've been through the ups and downs of building a successful creative business. From struggling to make ends meet to achieving my dream of becoming an award-winning lettering designer, I've learned valuable lessons along the way. Now, I'm here to share those lessons, strategies, and tips so that your journey can be smoother. Whether you're looking to turn your passion into a career or want insights to boost your creative business, this podcast is your guide. Join me on the Open Studio Podcast and let's make your creative dreams a reality. Hello and welcome back to Open Studio. I'm your host, Martina Flor, and today I'm sharing two simple but really powerful shifts that completely transform my creative career. So as you know, I'm a graphic designer who pivoted into lettering design in her 30s, and I was in a job that I didn't like, and I managed to turn my creative skill into a thriving business. So if you ever felt stuck like I did at that time in a job that drains your creativity and you're struggling to make time for your creative practice, for building your creative career, this episode is for you. These are the very strategies that helped me transition from working at a job I didn't love to building a career around my creative skill of lettering design. And together with this episode, I want to give you access to a resource that is really close to my heart. It's called Diary for Aspiring Lettering Artists. This is a journal to document your path as a graphic artist, as a lettering artist. And it's not only a place for you to document that, but it also includes lessons learned from my own experience. These are practical tactics and also mindset shifts that I have made throughout my career that really helped me turn my creative skill into a profession. So you can go and download it for free at martinaflor.com/diary. I'm going to include it in the show notes so that you can find it, but you can go now and download it for free on martinaflor.com/diary. All right, let's get into today's episode. Before we dive into the two tactics that I want to share with you, I want to tell you a little bit of my story, which I have shared throughout previous episodes. But as you know, I am a graphic designer. I studied graphic design, and in my 20s, I got a job as a graphic designer and creative director, and my life looked like this. I was coming to the office, sitting down, open my inbox, and I would spend hours on my inbox, just scrolling through different emails, back-to-back meetings, and it was a job that didn't excite me. It was a job that it was far from what I had imagined when I was in art school, what I had envisioned for myself, a life, a career that worked with creativity every day, where I was creative every day. And like many creatives, I took whatever work came my way to pay the bills. So I stick to this job because it was really paying the bills. And that meant that my true skill, my true passion for illustration, for lettering was always pushed back. I always had this belief that I couldn't make money with creativity. And then something clicked. I felt so miserable at the job that I was that I thought I had nothing to lose. And I realized that if I wanted my life to look different, I had to start making different decisions. So I made two small but really game-changing shifts in my daily routine. Of course, at that time, I didn't realize what an impact that will have in my career, but that really changed everything. When I look back and I look at those two things that I did back then, I am thankful to the wisdom in that 20-year-old me taking or making those shifts, those changes in her daily routine. And I want to share them with you because I know how powerful they are. And I know that if you implement at least one of these in your daily routine, it will have a positive impact in your life and in your creative career. And the best part of it is that they're really simple to implement. You don't need expensive tools or anything like that. You just need to shift the way you organize your day and the way you approach your work. So the tactic number one is what I call early morning magic. So for the longest time, I would always leave my creativity or my creative work for the end of the day. So I will come back from work and then I will sit down to work, or I will sit down to work in my creative work or in building my skills. But I soon realized that by the time I sat down to work, I was exhausted. So I had spent all day working at something I didn't love. And when I finally sat down to work on something I really enjoyed, I was exhausting. I was drained. And some days I would be stuck at work late because a project got delayed, or I got caught in traffic, or something happened that pushed my goal of sitting down to work in my creative work farther and farther apart. So what I did is that I flipped the way I organized my day. So instead of waiting until the end of the day to do what I really wanted to do, to have my creative time, I did that first thing in the morning. I started waking up a little bit earlier, and I dedicated those quiet hours exclusively to my lettering work. And I wouldn't go on social media. I wouldn't check on emails. I wouldn't check on my phone. I would just wake up, prepare some coffee, and sit down to work. No distractions, just me, my tools, my craft, and that was it. And sometimes I would manage to work for 15 minutes. Sometimes I would manage to work for 1 hour. But nevertheless, I felt, I started the day with a sense of accomplishment, a sense of like I'm doing something that is meaningful for me. I am moving the needle of my own life and my own career. And the most interesting part is that I started shifting my mindset. I started observing that my mindset had a shift. So when you start your day by prioritizing what truly matters to you, you reinforce your own self-worth. You are telling yourself, hey, my creative skill is important. My creative skill is a priority. So my creativity really deserves this space. I am building something for myself, not just for my job or for my boss. I'm doing something that is meaningful for me. And even if the rest of my day got chaotic and I was invested into something I didn't really love, I had already done something that moved me forward. And that really changed everything for me. And the best part is that you don't need hours to make progress. So even those 15 minutes that I mentioned of focused time in the morning can really create massive momentum. And this is what you want to achieve. You want to build momentum. You want to build momentum where you feel like things are moving forward steadily. So my challenge for you is, can you carve out just 15 minutes at the start of your day? I'm not asking for 1 hour or 2 hours. I'm just saying 15 minutes. Can you start there? It doesn't mean that you have to wake up at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. in the morning. Maybe it's before you check on your phone. So before you go onto social media or check on your WhatsApp, you just sit down to create. And maybe it's before heading to work. Just put your creative skill, your creative goals first. Now let's move on to tactic number 2, which is every project counts and finish what you start. So the second shift that I made when I started building my career as a lettering artist is that I stopped treating my lettering as practice, and I started treating every piece as a real project. So I shifted from practicing to making and to creating. And I speak about this often in this podcast because I feel that's such a powerful mindset shift when it comes to creating, because you're moving from doing something that doesn't have an impact in the world and no one will get to see, which is practicing, and you are moving towards creating something that you're going to put out there in the world. So in the beginning, when I started getting into lettering and letter design, I had stacks and piles of unfinished sketches. I always speak about the drawer that I had where I put all my sketches, and I would start something and get distracted or get discouraged, or I didn't know how to continue, and I would never finish it. And this is where I made the commitment of treating every single piece I created as a project that I had to be finished. So every single piece I started, I set myself the goal of finishing it. So no more scattered sketches sitting in my sketchbook or inside that drawer that I mentioned before. No more, I will come back to this later, because let's be honest, you never come back to it. And this really changed everything for me, because finishing work really builds confidence. And most importantly, it helps you build a portfolio early on. And I speak about this concept in episode number 170, where I speak about the essential parts that your portfolio needs to have in order to get you hired by clients. So you can go check it out. But treating every piece of work that you do, even if you don't have any professional assignment, even if you don't have any client assignment yet, can really have an impact in building that important asset for your career, which is your portfolio of work. And furthermore, when you complete a project, whether big or small, you are proving to yourself that I can see something through, I can finish something. I'm not just playing to be an artist or a creative. I'm actually producing work. I am building a portfolio piece. I am building my portfolio, which is that very important asset that will help you get hired down the road as a creative, as a lettering artist, as a graphic artist. And that last one is key. When you consistently finish your artwork, you are naturally building that portfolio, and you're also documenting your progress. You will see that as you start building that portfolio, you will start noticing the progress you're making. You will start comparing your last piece of work with one of the first ones, and you will notice, oh, okay, I can do that much better today. So this tactic was really important to me, because by the time I was ready to take on professional lettering work, by the time I was ready to launch my career as a lettering artist, half of the work was already done, because I had projects to showcase. I had been building that portfolio of mine. So when the time came where I was ready to launch my career, I had 50% of the work done. So if you're someone who starts a lot of things but struggles to finish, this is your reminder to do exactly that, to finish each project. And in order to do that, you can set a clear goal for each piece. You can set yourself a little bit of a briefing. So what this piece is going to be about, who am I creating this for? Is this going to be a book cover? Do I want to tackle a new style in this piece of work that I'm creating now? You can also set yourself a deadline. So you say, okay, I'm going to spend 1 week in this piece and I'm gonna finish it. So I start today, Monday, let's say, and I'm gonna finish this piece on Saturday. And you need to stick to it and complete it. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to be finished. Because the truth is that, and this is something that I tell to my students is inside my program, the lettering seminar, that it will never be finished. You will look at that lettering piece or that piece of work that you finished yesterday, tomorrow, and you will see things that you would change or you would do differently. So a piece of work is never finished. And this is why it's so important to know when you're going to be done with it, even if it's not done, even if it's not completed, even if it's not finished. So these two simple changes. Number one, prioritizing my creative work first and committing to finishing projects were really the foundation of everything that followed. And this is something that I do until the date. Now I work with a team. I am not alone in my business. Nevertheless, we always prioritize and we always put first the big projects, the things that we want to tackle first, the things that really move the needle of the business, and we complete the project. We set ourselves deadlines and we stick to them. And this helps us as a team to stay consistent and to build confidence in what we do, because there's nothing that builds confidence more than doing what you say you're gonna do. So these simple tactics help me build a body of work, and they help me transition from dreaming about it, dreaming about my creative career, to actually making it happen, to actually start materializing what I wanted to build. So if you're feeling stuck or overwhelmed and you want to make that shift, start here. Wake up 15 minutes earlier and dedicate that time to your creative skill, to creating something that is meaningful to you. And choose one project and commit to finish it. And here's an extra tip, which is set your deadline tight. Don't set a deadline that is like 3 months from now. Just set a deadline to finish that piece of work in 1 week or 2 weeks maximum. So start there. It may feel really small right now, but I want you to start doing the shifts, because this is how big things begin. And remember that together with this episode, I have put together a resource that will help you even more. It's called Diary for Aspiring Lettering Artists. It's a free diary that will help you document your journey as a lettering artist. And it also includes some of the lessons and stories from my own journey as a lettering artist. And you can download it for free on martinaflor.com/diary. Thank you so much for tuning in to Open Studio. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone who might need this little nudge. I will see you in the next episode of Open Studio. Bye-bye. So this is it. I hope you loved this episode. You can find me, the host of the show, on social networks at Martina Flor on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. If you have a question or comments, go to martinaflor.com/podcast, where you can see previous episodes, find show notes, and send voice memos with your comments and questions. You can also watch these episodes on YouTube. Just go to martinaflor.com/YouTube to find them. You can, of course, listen to all our episodes on your favorite podcast platform. If you loved this episode, subscribe to this podcast. And if you leave us a review, it will help others find us. Thank you all for listening, and see you in the next episode of Martina Flor's Open Studio. Bye-bye.